Holy hidden gem anime find, I low-key did not expect this movie to be as good as it was, but goddamn! My expectations were shattered for a film that was made 7 years ago, and I genuinely do think that this anime is underrated as hell. But in case y'all aren't caught up with what I'm talking about, it's the anime named Hello World, a sci-fi romance anime that was directed by the same guy who directed Sword Art Online and Erased. Just to recap, this movie follows Naomi Katagaki, an introverted high school kid who is a bookworm. He meets a tsundere named Ruri Ichigyo, who also happens to love books, but is jumped by his future self before their relationship develops naturally. His future self tells him that Ruri is going to die within a few months if he doesn't follow a specific set of instructions that will lead to her survival. To defend himself from the defense system that prevents changes to the original timeline database, Naomi gets a thing called God's Hand, which can manifest anything just from a thought, and Naomi continues to follow everything his future self tells him. So then Naomi and Ruri slowly fall in love with each other, and the story evolves from a generic high school romance into a generic high school romance with really weird sci-fi shit. I'm not gonna spoil more about this movie, and what I just said basically gives a good summary that doesn't reveal the plot twists, but I definitely want to give my thoughts on the movie as a whole. Immediately after I finished the movie, I was low-key feeling happy, and life was pretty much all shits and giggles then, which was probably because of how good the ending felt. But around a few hours after the movie ended, I felt kinda sad, and I wasn't really able to understand why. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that while it did have a lot of silver linings and happy moments, there was a lot of loss, redemption, and sacrifice that I do think makes the movie bittersweet. And it was actually after I watched the anime extras, which follows the life of future Naomi, when I actually felt the emotional impact that got my shit depressed. Like I was feeling guilty and shit the way I saw future Naomi at first, which you'll only understand when you watch the movie, so I'm begging you to please watch this peak masterpiece. But at the end of the day, the movie did make me feel emotionally fulfilled, and it is at my top 3 anime currently. Not to mention the OVAs and the extra Hello World If spin-offs. That extra material from the franchise was actually so peak to consume, and it kind of solidifies the backstory of the movie itself. Now we gotta talk about the production quality. Like, this shit gets slandered left and right by ungrateful chuds online, but I genuinely thought that the 3D animation style blended with traditional anime art was so unique and a breath of fresh air compared to other anime. Not to mention how there's a little detail at the end of the movie in the post-credits scene where the animation turns 2D that kind of shows why the 3D animation was intentional. And again, you'll only understand once you actually watch the movie and dive into the plot more. Speaking of the plot, a lot of people criticize it for leaning too much into the sci-fi part, which made the romance feel kind of forced. But personally, I couldn't see any problem with blending the two themes. They actually kind of complemented each other well, because it showed to what extent the characters actually cared about each other. The soundtrack was also absolutely heavenly, like the song named Yesterday. I immediately put that gem in my playlist. The other soundtracks were super unique and made the movie have its own style compared to other generic anime. For example, there was an EDM, which I'm not gonna lie sounded kind of cringe, but the piano soundtracks low-key amplified those emotional moments. At the same time, even with all this glaze for the movie, I kinda understand why it isn't as popular as other masterpiece films like Shinkai's Your Name or Weathering With You, the latter of which was released in the same year as Hello World and overshadowed it a lot. Some people genuinely might not like the animation or sci-fi subplot because, I mean, that's just their opinion. Like, I can't force you to like a movie that I genuinely found to be criminally underrated. But honestly, I think that if you'll go into the movie with an open mind like I did and appreciate it for what it is, then you might realize how beautiful the animation is, how incredible the music felt, and how memorable the characters were. At least for me, those were what actually made it underrated.